Welcome back to the Eric Krown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy and healthy start to this nice little Saturday morning over here from Helsinki, Finland. A few things to speak about today as we get the major weekly closure for CME yesterday, which is going to massively influence the next week of price action to come. Then we'll also talk about the short-term timeframes for this weekend as well. Other than that, I want to make one quick announcement with Instagram. Please understand that if you're getting any sort of DMs on Instagram from any account that might look similar to mine, that's trying to entice you into some sort of like whatever they might be doing, whatever it is, probably sounds too good to be true. It's not me. I just received like another incredibly awful message this morning, and I just wanted to reiterate these thoughts because you can never be too safe, I suppose. So if you're actually interested in my Instagram account, the only one is in the link in the description below. I've actually been a lot more active posting there, but again, if you're getting any sort of DMs, it is not me. I do not have any sort of secret trading fund. I can assure you of that. Okay, sweet. So let's pop back in over here. Oh, we'll get to that soon enough. Ha ha ha. But basically yesterday, what happened? So we confirmed the bull trap, the short-term bull trap conditions, which was a move below about 30,250 or 30,300, depending upon where you kind of take things. And that was driving price action back down with the targeted region, basically back down around that low $29,000 region, of which we did hit, and now have, I guess, a little bit of an anemic bounce right here. That kind of leads us into the weekend. But what is of great significance right here is, of course, two-pronged. One on the daily BBWP, which is incredibly low specifically for CME. This one's going to be different, obviously, than spot, but this likely sets up the next week to come, maybe like the latter portion of this next week to come, in the sense that daily BBWP for CME is basically on the floor. It's at 1.98 percentile. And what's even more compelling about this is that the moving average is also on the floor as well at 1.51 percentile. Of which, that implies that we're going to very, 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 very likely see expansion from this coming into this next week, and expansion from this current region would, imply a break of the range, the daily range between about 32,500 to the upside versus about 28.5 to the downside. Obviously, the probabilities of it now breaking to the downside are probably going to be massively increased, as we're going to look a little bit later. But in this case right here, this move is very, 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 very likely coming probably sometime in the later portion of this next coming week. The next thing that I want to bring up is, of course, the daily stochastic momentum pivot over here. So not only did we confirm the short-term bull trap that was driving price action back down to this low 28, maybe even into the low 29 to maybe even mid $28,000 region, we're going to see daily stochastic momentum not just turn down upon the next open, which is going to come in, I guess, late Sunday, because we did close below that pivot at 29,800, which obviously closing price was 29,535 on CME, but it's also going to be considered a rejection of the bullish control zone right here as well. Two very important things. And with BBWP on the floor, the probabilities of seeing this move now do, once again shift to the downside, as Bitcoin more or less range between about 32.5 and 28.5. So we are very likely looking at the next big move relatively soon. And if we even just go over here on CME, weekly closed as a nice little massive rejection. Beautiful, absolutely fucking beautiful right there. And I just want to speak about this for a second, because I've been seeing a lot of like very interesting analyses on especially like Twitter, where it's like, Bitcoin has had 9 red weeks in a row. This has never happened. It must be green the next week. It doesn't fucking matter. And it doesn't, that is such a, it's such an irrelevant analysis in my opinion. The reason why is because when you get like a doji kind of like this over here, where price action basically doesn't change all that much on a weekly closing basis, does that matter? No. And also, there's no like rule that you can't go down for a long time, nor can you go up for a long time. I mean, no one really complains about it on this over here, the upside, right? At the same point to the downside, I think just people intuitively believe that it's like, oh, well, if we go down so far, then we must go up after some time. Yeah, there's going to be bounces. And technically, this one did close green, if you will, but is that really a green week? I would not consider this a green week, at least not me personally. But hey, fair enough, to each their own in this case. Okay, cool. So now that we got through that kind of sets us up for the next week to come. Still, I do want to see, in order to declare a range break to the downside with major continuation to the targets to the downside, I want to see a daily closure below about 28.5. Just like to the upside, we wanted to see above about 32.5. We didn't quite get that last week, although that would have been quite nice for the Bulaws. In this case, well, now we're a little bit closer to resolve this in the bearish way, of course, and that would imply targets back down in the same regions as before. First about 27, then you got 25.5, 26, and then 22, 23, I think it was. Anyways, with that in mind, and again, I don't think that this necessarily happens that soon, but hey, timing's never been something that I've been very good with, so I don't really stand by those statements. But what I do want to talk about now is short term over the weekend. So as always, when it comes to the weekend, I never feel too confident on price action because a lot of the time the weekend moves typically get faded coming into Sunday as CME opens and the real week of trading begins. So take this, as always, recently it's been pretty damn good, but I never really feel too compelled by it. Anyways, in this case right here, do we have another setup where we could potentially see a bit of a scam pump, if you will? I like that terminology, always kind of makes me laugh. I suppose yes, if we do want to reference underlying market dynamics like the funding rates, which are negative 0.04%. So, technically speaking, shorts are paying to hold their positions right now. It's over the weekend. I suspect that those shorts they're probably doing fine, like as far as P&L was, but the people who join a little bit later, as you can see over here, well, they can be short-term squeeze, like for the very, very short-term time frame, over leveraged, over aggressive traders. Yeah, they obviously can be, but nothing relevant for a higher term time frame, at least in my opinion, as of right now. Other than that, let's go back into this chart over here and let's pull up some of our momentum oscillators. We do see a few things. We do see, I believe, on a 3-hour, yes, we do have a little bit of bullish evidence come off that last low right there. 4-hour even has a little bit of hidden bullish evidence coming off of that low right there as well. But these are not like amazing signals right here. Again, over the weekend, the efficacy of these signals gets diminished greatly. I think hourly is probably, hourly looks like it wants to come back down again. It's got hidden bearish divergence right there. So, I want to say over the weekend, we probably get another try back up, or at least that's a little bit more likely. But, if I'm just run off the hourly, which actually has been pretty damn good, it would suggest maybe one more try back down around about 29.4-ish, basically our current closing lows, and then maybe a bounce from there yet again. If we go over here and reference stochastic momentum, I believe it wouldn't take too much to get lower term time frame stochastic momentum to turn back up. 4-hour time frame will turn back up above 29,630. Again, these are these are just corrective signals. These are not going to be like reversal, or extremely unlikely to be reversal signals. But in this case, we're actually kind of dancing around there right now. So it's not like a given that it turns up, and even if it does, it's not like a worse, like Bitcoin saved for forever signal either. These are very short term time frame things. 3 hours showing 29,480, which is closing in about an hour and 43. Bi hourly is going to be showing 29,650. It's actually just below there, but by a ball sack hair, with 43 minutes left to go. Hourly is going to be freshly turning down below 29,650 as well. So, it does look to me actually in the short term time frames, we probably do come back down and swipe around those lows like 29.4, something like that. But do I think that we necessarily have the setup to see this continue over the weekend? Probably not. Then again, if I reference daily over here, we're very likely going to see daily stochastic momentum turn down as if Bitcoin closed below 31.2, then that will happen. And that also, again, will be considered a rejection of the bullish control zone. And then, within the context of this, I do want to go back over here because I am compelled to just say that, over the weekend, you typically see something kind of screwy happens. So I would not rule out the possibility of a short-term upside move, but that just calls into question, like, where are the areas of interest? And so for this purpose, I'd actually just take a fib from yesterday's local high to our current local low. And obviously we already have a little bit of a rejection right around the 382 at 29.8. If you do see any sort of like an hourly closure above that region, I would be looking for Bitcoin to put in a move somewhere between about 30,000 to 30,100 and 50. And at that point, I'd probably be looking for a bit of a rejection right there. Bitcoin heavily bearish, especially as long as we are below the 3rd of June high. That would be yesterday's high. And even above there, probably gets another run towards 32, 32.5. And actually, at that point, things would look pretty damn good yet again for upside continuation before long-term downside try again. So I just want to reiterate my thoughts on the long term once again, just so that I'm very hopefully as clear as possible. Macro, I strongly believe that Bitcoin's lows are not in just yet, or at least if they're not in, or at least if maybe they are in, we're very likely going to retest somewhere reasonably close to those lows. That's going to be based off of this chart over here, the fundamental chart, as I like to call it, which is basically just a monthly chart that I'm basing this off of the accumulation distribution indicator over here, of which basically how do I want to kind of come at it from this? What you need to know about it for the actual lows is that we've never seen a macro low ever, not even once, even close in Bitcoin's history, which we've only really seen 4 in Bitcoin's history, by the way, without seeing the accumulation distribution indicator go, reasonably deep into the red zone over here. We're actually getting our first foray into the red zone here on the index, which is, I guess it's better than not, right? But ultimately, this green, not vertical, but green horizontal bar that I have here actually marks off where basically all of the other macro lows have come in around. To a reasonably close degree. So in this case, that would suggest that we probably do at least retest somewhere around the lows, maybe slightly new lows as well. But this can take months to play out. Obviously, I've been saying maybe around like Q4 of this year, we start to see that play out. Then again, it's like you see the price action from yesterday. It's like, maybe this weekend. but again, I do think that best case scenario for Bitcoin is basically something like this, as I have drawn in the LARP lines over here. Well, maybe I'll just draw them again so it makes a little more sense. But basically Bitcoin, maybe tests into there a few times, reaccumulates over the course of 3-4 months, and at that point, if Bitcoin can hold these reasonably close around these lows, basically like $22,000-$23,000 on a higher term time frame closing basis, then yeah, maybe at that point we start to say that the major macro lows are in. But for right now, next week, I do think that we're probably going to see another try to the downside. The question is what happens over the weekend. If we get another upside move for the weekend, probably looking somewhere right around here. But I don't really see any real reason to be changing around next week's outlook, especially as long as we're below yesterday's high, which is 30,000 and about 700 or so. Check your exchanges. It will be slightly different amongst different exchanges. So, rather simple day, as you would imagine, for a nice little slow Saturday. And then tomorrow, Sunday, we'll do a bit of a more macro intensive look, but I think that'll take care of things for right now. We should also talk about continuation. I didn't even mention this at all. Jesus, man, how could I be so lackadaisical? But while the short-term timeframes, do kind of have some signals that we might come back down and retest around these lows, I wouldn't call continuation to basically 28.6, 28.7 region until we do see at least an hourly below that 29.3 pivot. If you want to be a little more secure with that, probably use a 4 hour in that case, and then probably looking at something around this blue box over here, and probably another short-term bounce off of that as well. But I do think that would be a little more difficult to have happen over the weekend. All right, cool. I think that's going to do it for today. I want to be wishing you well yet again. Take care and see you hopefully soon.